It's 1624, half of your family is dead of the plague, and a witch hunter arrives in town. He takes one look at your butter and declares with full authority, "Witch!" The entire village thinks you're in league with Satan. Congratulations, you didn't know the rules about butter, and now you're being burnt at the stake. In today's episode of the Infographic Show, we'll look at innocent things that would make you a witch in medieval times. Number 18. Not having a penis. In Genesis, it's Eve that tempts Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge, falling for Satan's trap. Since then, women have commonly been seen as devilish snares by religious fundamentalists. So the first sign that you're a witch in medieval times is that you are a woman. At the Salem witch trials, of the 19 total people who got the noose, 14 of them made the mistake of not having a penis. Women who stood out from the rest were vulnerable to being labeled a witch. Homosexual or bisexual women, as well as those with various handicaps, were especially targeted, as were any who didn't abide by strict societal rules on conduct. And that's before they start looking at your bank account. Number 17. You're a poor woman. In medieval society, being poor and a woman basically meant you were a witch. Poor women would often beg their neighbors for help or take to panhandling on the streets. And just like Sarah Good, who in 1692 was pregnant, wife to a day laborer that barely made enough for them to get by, she would go door to door begging her neighbors for any handouts that they could spare. And the Puritans of her community did like Jesus commanded and gave to her because she was needy. Just kidding, they totally murdered her by claiming she was a witch. However, some who testified at her trial said that Sarah was spiteful and malicious when she and her husband were allowed to stay in one of their homes. So Sarah Good might have been a terrible roommate, but she definitely wasn't a witch. But rich women never had these types of problems, right? Wrong. Number 16. You're a rich woman. Listen, in medieval times, you literally could not win if you had the misfortune of being a woman. Since then, things have, well, at least it's not legal to burn you at the stake anymore, outside of Texas and Alabama. Are you a successful, strong, independent woman? That's right, up to the pyre you go, because lady brains are scientifically proven to not comprehend money, therefore you are clearly a witch. The only possible explanation for a successful woman supporting herself was if she had a successful business, selling souls to Satan. Sorry, Taylor Swift, you may be the best-selling female artist of all time, but it is clearly not your talent and 100% the fact that you inked a deal with the devil. Number 15. You were a rich woman with things people wanted. But maybe you really weren't a witch after all. Maybe people just wanted your stuff. In New England alone, nearly 2,000 women who had no brother or son to pass their inheritance onto would be executed for witchcraft, an astonishing 89% of total witchcraft killings. Now, we're no geniuses over here at the Infographic Show, but it seems pretty damn convenient that most witches turned out to be women who, upon their death, would have no one to inherit their property or wealth. Sorry, Taylor, maybe you're not a witch, but we think we deserve a private jet. Oh, we weren't kidding about how you handled your butter could label you a witch, by the way. But first, let's find out why friends are dangerous. Number 14. Having girlfriends. Are you a man hanging out with a bunch of women? Well, boys will be boys. Good on ya. Are you a woman hanging out with a bunch of other women? Witch! Top 17th century and modern-day Texas science proves that women cannot hang out with other women because their brains turn to mush when they don't have a male chaperone around. Think it's cool to have a gal's night out? Think again, Lucifer, because women hanging out with other women and not having a man around anywhere was a dead sure sign of a witch's coven. Women are too delicate for the rigors of the world without a man by their side, unless they already have a man by their side, that is, that man being Satan. Your neighbor's husband got a reliance on Viagra, probably because you're a witch. But first, number 13, getting into fights with your girlfriends. Okay, what if you did have girlfriends that you had regular, appropriate, male-sponsored visits with? Well, as long as you didn't get into a serious disagreement, then you could enjoy all the male-sponsored female friends you want. But if you get into a tiff with your gal pals, that's a one-way ticket to the pyre. Rachel Clinton from New England was generally well-liked, but she made the mistake of getting married late in life, which caused her social stock to plummet. One day, in the aftermath of an argument with other women, Rachel started throwing elbows in church. That, along with the fact that she had a mother with a serious mental illness, was all it took to get her hung on the gallows as a witch. If that sounds unfair, then don't worry, because it turns out you could also get burned as a witch for number 12, getting into fights with anyone. Surprise, it's not just your gal pals you have to worry about offending. because it turns out that if you were a woman in medieval times, making literally anyone angry was proof to get you hung by your neck as a witch. During the Salem witch trials, there was a free-for-all of accusations. Petty vindictiveness elevated innocent victims to a terrible fate. And for once, it wasn't just women. 5 out of the 19 victims were men after all. Hashtag never forget Salem men. Ever wanted to be a doctor while being a woman? Definitely a witch. But first, number 11, being old. Due to cultural and scientific advancements during the medieval age, average life expectancy steadily rose from 20 years old to 23 years old, a golden era for mankind. Naturally, anyone who didn't knock off at the appropriate time was immediately suspicious. Medieval Europe had very lax hygiene standards and even less medical knowledge. In fact, the most common form of medicine was prayer, kind of like the entire United States today, thanks to unaffordable healthcare. But with such limited access to medical knowledge, people tended to die very young and not live past a few decades, unless you were a witch. It's kind of hard to blame medieval people for this one, because when war, pestilence, and famine were just what you did for fun on a Thursday afternoon, it would take supernatural power to live to a ripe old age. Number 10, being young. Think being a baby will save you from being labeled a witch? It only means you started working for the devil early. Dorothy Good was an astonishing 4 years old when she was jailed on accusations of being a witch. And hey, we get it, we're no fan of toddlers ourselves. Goo goo gaga? More like hail Satan. Nice try. You're never too young for a cold, hard sell. Have a big family? Is your family too small? Both could get you labeled as a witch. But first, number 9, being a doctor. You'd think that being a doctor would earn the respect of the town or village. But just remember, this was a society that, much like modern Texas, hadn't yet discovered the power of washing one's hands after using the bathroom. But in medieval times, anybody that had the special skills and know-how to use various salves and natural remedies to heal people was basically begging to be put to death. It doesn't help that brewing strange potions was literally what witches were supposed to do. But really, you couldn't win, because if you healed someone too well, or not well enough, both were grounds for the cleansing pyre. Let's face it, our ancestors weren't exactly a bunch of Stephen Hawkings. Number 8, you have too many children. How could it be that you have 6 children while your neighbor only has 2? Fertility has nothing to do with it. It is obviously because you are a witch, birthing children spawned by the Prince of Darkness. Jealousy ran thick during the height of the witch craze across Europe and the American colonies, and something as petty as a jealous neighbor who had trouble conceiving could end up putting you in a noose. Like dating? Hope you set your Tinder location to hell, because that's where the witches go. But first, number 7, you have too few children. Don't have enough kids? Have 0 kids? Beelzebub himself hath seized your womb. This would be especially true if you had no children, as you'd be seen as an old crone who couldn't conceive the miracle of life due to her deals with the devil. But if your neighbor was having a stretch of bad luck with their own kids and you had none, well, it was obviously because you were hexing the family out of jealousy. Number 6, your neighbor's husband can't get it up. Is your neighbor's husband having performance issues? Little soldier can't stand at attention for the whole guard shift? Probably your fault as the childless woman living next door who is stealing all his mojo with her magic. Even fertility issues were the cause of witchcraft, with young couples who couldn't conceive often blaming their lonely neighbors. Are you carrying the literal mark of the devil? Probably why you got labeled a witch. But first, number 5, being stubborn, strange, or just generally abnormal. In medieval times, being abnormal in any way was a surefire sign that you were a witch. With evidence that autism had been prevalent amongst humans since the earliest recorded history, any kind of neurodivergence could have been grounds for society to burn you at the stake. In the 17th century, signs of mental handicap, like speech difficulties or cognitive difficulties, was evidence that the devil was at work within you. But being overly sassy or generally disruptive to societal norms was also a sign of witchcraft. A good person didn't rock the boat. Got milk? Got bad milk? Well, you're definitely a witch. But first, number 4, third nipple. Up to 6% of the population in the US have a third nipple, and this extra nipple is usually either too small to be easily recognized as one or easily removed with cosmetic surgery. Back when getting a paper cut was basically a death warrant, this simply wasn't an option. Instead, any kind of strange birthmark or abnormality, like a third nipple, was definitely a sign of witchcraft. This is where the devil would have touched you physically, and to prove it, witch hunters of the era developed a very precise scientific method called poke the area with something sharp. If you winced in pain, then the area was sensitive due to Satan's ravages. But if you displayed no pain at all, then obviously the devil himself was protecting you. It was foolproof science with a 100% success rate. Number 3. Spoiled milk and butter. Did you forget to clean out your pantry and accidentally let some butter or milk go bad? Clearly, that was a sign of your betrayal to God. Milk and cheese were a kind of a big deal back during a time when these were basically the only things on your shopping list. However, curdled milk was sometimes quoted as evidence of witchcraft, but milk that didn't curdle correctly in order to form cheese was also a sign of witchcraft. Have you read your Bible lately? You better have, because breaking any of its many rules could mean you're a witch. But first, number 2. Sex out of wedlock. Sex in a mutually respectful context is a wonderful thing, unless you live in Puritan England, where bumping uglies with a boyfriend was indisputable evidence that you were in league with Satan. Martha Corey, another victim of the Salem witch trials, had an illegitimate mixed-race son while still young. She married twice, with her second husband, Giles Corey, also having a reputation as a, quote, scandalous person in his former time. This was basically good enough evidence to convince Salem witch hunters that the two were guilty of being witches, and both would die, her by hanging and him by being pressed to death. Number 1. Daydreaming and playing make-believe. Ever been told to get your head out of the clouds or you'll never amount to anything? Well, in medieval times, if you didn't get your head out of the clouds, you were liable to lose it. Tituba, the enslaved woman who was among the first to be accused of witchcraft in Salem, liked to play a game with the local girls where they tried to divine who their future husband would be. It was an innocent bit of fun, but in the Puritan community, using your imagination too much was only leaving room for the devil to invade it. Tituba would be put to death for the crime of make-believe, and all across Europe, other women who liked to play pretend and daydream would likewise meet a similar fate. We're not saying we have anything against bronies, we're just saying the community would have been a lot smaller in medieval Europe. Now go check out even more evil punishments worse than death, or click this other video instead.